Hello everyone, welcome back. Tom with Capo Fetish. Today on the channel we're going to cover one of the great discographies of the 1970s. I'm talking about Bowie's output from 1970 through 79. The albums The Man Who Sold the World to Lodger in 1979. We're not including any live albums like David Live or Stage, just those 11 albums from 70 to 79. I love this period of David Bowie. I kind of lost interest after the 80s, didn't really get into his 90s stuff, but there's no denying the absolute brilliance of his 70s output. So there are none in this 11-song album output that I dislike. They all have their certain attributes. I like some more than others. So let's count it down from 11 to 1 here, all right? Let's start off with his covers album from 1973 called Pinups, with Twiggy on the cover here. Not all of it works, but there are some outstanding covers done on this album. One being the song called Sorrow, a song originally released by the McCoys in the mid-60s, American band called the McCoys. They had a single called Fever. The flip side was called Sorrow. Also, a band called the Mercies in the UK had a version of it. Bowie did a cover of it. And I gotta say, I think Bowie's version is the best version of a Sorrow I've ever heard. It's just fantastic. Other highlights on this album are Where Have All the Good Times Gone by the Kinks. He does Friday on My Mind. He also does Here Comes the Night by Them. He does a really twisted version of See Emily Play by Pink Floyd from the Syd Barrett era. Like I said, not all of it works, but it's all very enjoyable in Bowie's kind of, the way he delivers songs and kind of revamps songs. I think it's great. Pinups from Bowie from 1973 coming in at number 11. Coming in at number 10 is 1970's The Man Who Sold the World. A lot of people consider this the start of Bowie's classic period in the 70s. And I agree for the most part. I think more Hunky Dory than this one, but I like this album. It's never totally grown on me like a lot of his other albums. There are some cuts on here I really dig. I like The Width of a Circle. I think that showcases Mick Ronson's amazing guitar playing. If you've ever heard any live versions of that song, he's just on fire, just smoking on the guitar. I love the song Running Gun Blues. That is really, really cool. And I think throughout this album, there's more hard rock employed. You hear a little bit of Zeppelin, a little bit of Sabbath, just a little bit more hard rock and less theatrical, what he would later do with albums like Hunky Dory and Ziggy. But the title cut was a huge hit for Nirvana off the Unplugged album in '94. I think they did an outstanding version. I love Bowie's version as well, but nothing on this album really, though, besides maybe 3 or 4 songs, really sticks with me like further albums would throughout the 70s. But I think it's still a fine album. The Man Who Sold the World from 1970, coming in at number 10. Number 9 is an album that's grown on me over the years. I just listened to it today. I think every time I listen to it, I like it a little more. And I think a lot of other people feel this way, and that is 1979's Lodger. Speaking of Lodger, when I saw Bowie back in '04 at the Wiltern Theater. My wife and a friend of mine went, and it was a really, really cool, intimate show. I don't know if anybody who lives out here has been to the Wiltern, but it's a really small theater, really intimate, great acoustics. And I think about the two or three songs into his set, he did Fantastic Voyage, which starts this album off. And that is such a great track. Other tracks on here I really like is Red Sails. Of course, the singles DJ is great. I remember that video when it was out in late 70s. Look Back in Anger is another great one, and I love African Night Flight is really weird and twisted. It's really, it's my least favorite of the Berlin trilogy, but it's definitely grown on me over the years. So yeah, I think this one might go up the list a little more as the years go on. But I dig a lot of this album. Very, very different portions of the record, should I say? But Lodger's an awesome record, and his third and final album of the Berlin trilogy from the late 70s. Number 8 is Heroes from 1977. You're probably thinking, why so low? Why so low? Well, there's so many great Bowie albums, and there's so many different styles. I guess what it is that you just kind of latch on to a different style of his, and if that really suits your needs, that's what turns you on about Bowie. So this is his second album in the Berlin trilogy. Oddly enough, my favorite song on this album is one that people don't really talk about that much, and that's Sons of the Silent Age. I think that is such a cool track. Just everything about it. It's like it was beamed in from another planet. That chorus has got to be one of the most twisted sounding choruses and so infectious at the same time. Those weird kind of jangular, kind of twisted sounding vocals in the chorus, the backup vocals. And Bowie's just like kind of just, what would you say, kind of disembodied voice. I just love Sons of the Silent Age. It's just one of my absolute favorite Bowie songs of all time. I also love side 2, the way those 4 instrumentals kind of segue into one another, being V2 Schneider, Love, Sense of Doubt, and Moss Garden, the way those 3 segue into one another. Of course, the title track is phenomenal. This is the long version on the album, not the single. And the album ends with The Secret Life of Arabia, the only sung track on side 2. It kind of follows a similar pattern as Low. Side 1 is all vocals. Side 2 is all instrumentals except for The Secret Life of Arabia. Great album. Love this album. Heroes from 1977. Number 7. I listened to this album the other night. This album, over the years, I couldn't really fully get into, but it finally hit me. I love this album, Young Americans. I think because I'm kind of a soul freak, I love classic soul, and I think Bowie does a great job on this album. He employs great backup vocalists like Luther Vandross, Ava Cherry. We've got Earl Slick on guitar. We've got Carlos Alomar on guitar. It's just, and then of course the late David Sanborn on sax. I mean, just great session players, great musicians all over this record, and his vocals. You know, David, like I expressed in a few videos prior, he's just a vocal chameleon. Everything he sings is sung with such conviction, and there's so many different voices he employs, and I think he does the soul thing really well. And I like this song, especially love the song called, it's the second track after Young Americans. It's called Win. Love that track. And of course, Fascination is a really great number. The only song I don't like on here is his cover of Across the Universe. I think it's just terrible. Other than that, I think the whole album is fantastic. You got Fame on here, which is so unique. You got Lennon doing the call and response backup vocals on Fame and a little bit of rhythm guitar. And he's also singing some of the backups on Across the Universe. You've got Can You Hear Me? I think all these tracks are really, really great. Love the sound of this, like mid-70s plastic soul, as he would call it. So I'm going to give Young Americans a shout out. I love this album. Coming in at number 7. Number 6, Diamond Dogs. Love this album. And I love the fact that Bowie's playing guitar throughout the whole album. Okay, so this is his first album without the Spiders. There's no Mick Ronson, and he's employed a whole new array of musicians. But yeah, you got Ainsley Dunsbar on drums, Herbie Flowers on bass, Bowie playing guitar, saxes, Moog, and Mellotron. I love his real raw guitar playing. I mean, Rebel Rebel, one of the great singles of all time. One riff all the way through, pretty much. One of the most infectious guitar riffs of all time. You got Diamond Dogs, which is rocks. Some of his best vocals are on this. I mean, he just really stretches and really brings it out. Songs like 1984, so cool. Rock and Roll With Me, very passionate. We Are the Dead, Big Brother. And that last track, The Chant of the Ever-Circling Skeletal Family, is so freaking weird and awesome. That cool riff going over and over and over. Candidate is great. Sweet Thing. I think this is just a fantastic record all the way through. Some critics panned it when it came out. I think it's divisive, this record. Some people either love it or they hate it. But I dig it. Diamond Dogs coming in at number 6. Now these top 5 here, to me, are perfect David Bowie albums. There's not one track I would replace. Every song just flows perfectly from one song to the other. All these albums are 5-star in my opinion. I'm going to start off here. Number 5, 1976's Station to Station. A huge, bold statement from Bowie coming right after Young Americans. You couldn't pick any more different types of sounds from Young Americans to Station. He's completely reinventing himself big time on Station to Station, especially the title track. Completely just robotic, very, what's the word? How would you say it? He's just very disembodied almost on this song, right? And it just goes on and on and on, and then it picks up speed in the second half and starts to rock. And then you got Golden Years. There was no song on AM radio in the mid-70s, especially 1976. When you consider some of the AM radio hits of the time, like Afternoon Delight, Let Your Love Flow, nothing sounded like Golden Years. And on AM radio in 1976, it stuck out like a sore thumb. I thought it was just an amazing track to my ears when I was about 11 years old. Kind of just completely unique and infectious. And then you've got two great crooners on this album that ends both sides. Word on a Wing, Wild as the Wind. Bowie doing his best crooner voice, just really, really emotional and deep. You've got TVC-15 starting off side 2, Transition, so good, so damn good. And then, of course, my favorite song on the album, Stay, with that infectious riff and that amazing chorus, so freaking eerie with Bowie doing that high and low part, and that weird melody, and that jam at the end. I think Earl Slick is playing lead guitar on it. Just absolutely one of his best tracks, in my opinion. One of my top 5 Bowie tracks of all time, Stay. If you have one of the super deluxe editions of Station to Station, or even like the double disc version, there's a live concert from '76 where he does Stay, and it is just as good as the studio version. It just absolutely rocks. And then the album ends with Wild as the Wind, as I mentioned before. Just a great closer, one of his best crooning songs of all time. This is just a 5-star album all the way through. Station to Station, David Bowie from 1976. Number 4, my favorite of the Berlin Trilogy and one of my most played Bowie albums. There was a period in my life in the 90s where I had a clock radio, a CD clock radio, and I would wake up to this every morning for months. I would hear the opening track, Speed of Life, and I'd finally wake up around the time of Weeping Wall. So I would just basically sit in bed, close my eyes, and listen to this album for months on end. It was a great wake-up album. So the first side, you got the avant pop side, all these little avant pop ditties, one after another. Speed of Life, Breaking Glass, What in the World. Sound and Vision is such a great track. Always Crashing in the Same Car, Be My Wife, A New Career in a New Town. That first side is amazing, just amazing. With that new drum sound they employed on this album, incredible. But I love the second side, the ambient side. Varsava, as they would call it. It's how we pronounce it here. I had to look it up online to see how you pronounce it here in America. Varsava, the first track, is absolutely amazing. It really takes you somewhere special. My favorite is Art Decade, the melody on that. You got Weeping Wall and ends with Subterraneans. This album is just a work of art right here. Low. My number 4 favorite Bowie album of all time. Love this cover too. I have something about the color orange to begin with. I love orange. And this is an outtake picture from the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth. Absolute masterpiece right here. Low from David Bowie coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3, there's no doubt this is a perfect album. Just an incredible array of great songwriting, playing from Mick Ronson. Just amazing. Ziggy Stardust. From start to finish, it's just amazing. 5 years. I love Stone or Soul Love. Love that chorus. Moon Age Daydream. That solo by Mick Ronson, incredible. Starman. And I love It Ain't Easy. I think that is an amazing track. I heard that was a leftover from the Hunky Dory sessions, and I think It Ain't Easy is fantastic. Second side, Lady Stardust. Gorgeous track. There's in the super deluxe version, or just the deluxe version of this album, there's a piano demo of Bowie doing Lady Stardust just by himself, and it is just absolutely transcendent. Hang On to Yourself is fantastic, and of course Ziggy Stardust, Suffragette City, and Rock and Roll Suicide. When I saw him in '04 at the Will Turn, he ended the show with Suffragette City and Ziggy Stardust. It was a perfect ending to a perfect show. Ziggy Stardust coming in at number 3. Now, number 1 and 2 have switched over time. I don't know. I'm putting it at number 2, but I think it's probably his best album, really, when it comes down to just song-wise, like songwriting, arrangements, and just pure emotion. Hunky Dory is an absolute masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. You know, has some of the greatest songs ever written. Changes. Life on Mars, that chorus, incredible. Cooks, Quicksand, and side one. Fill Your Heart, Andy Warhol, Song for Bob Dylan, Queen Bitch, which he employs kind of the same chord pattern as Sweet Jane from the Velvet Underground. And then it ends with the Bewley Brothers. This is an absolute singer-songwriter masterpiece from 1971. It has some of Bowie's best melodies, and it just shows you what an amazing songwriter David Bowie was. You know, before he descended into the experimentation and stuff, I mean, he was an incredible songwriter. And this is the epitome of his songwriting period right here, in my opinion. Hunky Dory from 1971. And then I've always been a big fan of this album. There's one track on here I don't like. It's the cover of Let's Spend the Night Together. But it doesn't hamper anything else on the album. The album is absolutely phenomenal. It rocks from start to finish. Possibly my favorite David Bowie side of all time. Side one of Aladdin, Sane from 1973. Look at this side. Watch That Man. By the way, Watch That Man. Why are the vocals buried so deep in that mix? I always wondered that. The rest of the album, his vocals are up front. It almost sounds like Mick Jagger's vocals in Exile on Main Street. They're kind of buried low in the mix. But Watch That Man, great rocker. Aladdin Sane, that eerie melody and that funky, weird, avant-garde piano at the end. Drivin' Saturday with those doo-wops from the 50s. This is like his Coming to America album, or his Ziggy, I guess they say Ziggy Comes to America album. It's his most rocking record, straight-ahead rocking record, I think. Panic in Detroit, one of my top 5 all-time Bowie songs, that infectious guitar riff, and those backup vocals, and then that dirty-sounding guitar and harmonica on Cracked Actor. I don't think he created a better side than side one of Aladdin Sane. It's just fantastic. Side 2, starting off with Time, gorgeous, kind of cabaret-ish song. The Prettiest Star, I love that. Let's Spend the Night Together. Don't like that version very much, but the album ends on such a high note. The Gene Genie with that kind of I'm a Man riff, Mannish Boy riff, and then ending with Lady Grinning Soul, just pure cabaret at the end there. Very emotional, incredible album, Aladdin Sane. And that's my top 11 Bowie albums from the 1970s. Throw your 11 favorite albums from Bowie from the 1970s in the comments section. I'd like to see what your number 1, number 2, and 3 are. And as always, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, just press that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.